Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 27th of December, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index. Dollar has been sinking off the last few days, and medium term, we are just seeing that bearishness. So we have been quite flat the last few months on the dollar, so we're just seeing that reprieve there. Long term, of course, we are still bullish, but medium term, we are seeing these new targets creeping in. So the dollar against the basket of currencies, i.e., the index, is just showing its weakness. And we see here that filtering through to the Eurodollar chart, euro looking stronger against the dollar for the first time in a long time. And if we look at the dollar yen chart, we see here that again we climbing up the hill on the medium term. Long term we still have some resistance, but short term we're falling away. But the picture is the yen being the risk on trade. We're seeing the yen weak at the moment as we're seeing markets just generally strong. Sterling is back above the 131 level, so we are seeing some improved strength against the dollar since the UK election. And if we look at euro sterling, we see sterling looking pretty strong here as well. So sterling actually benefiting over the last several weeks and months from the UK election result, and against the Swiss franc, sterling looking strong as well. Against the Aussie dollar, also looking strong. Bitcoin sitting at $7,200. Remembering this is my long term, my medium term, and my short-term chart. So we're bearish on all three time frames here, the lagging line below on the weekly. We do have some conflicting targets to the upside and to the downside, but the downside ones are activated, so we still favor the downside on Bitcoin. The S&P 500 index made a new all-time high yesterday, so US markets looking very strong indeed. We're seeing here really the S&P breaking out. We're off slightly today, but overall the market really starting to run now, so it looks like 2020 will be a good year for stock markets. And if we look at the NASDAQ, much the same picture there. We see here new highs, upside targets on the NASDAQ long term of about 37%, so really significant upside potential now over the, of course that's a very long term upside target. And we look at the Dow, we're seeing a similar target as well, and the Dow looking very bullish there. The Russell 2000 index has lagged behind the US indices, not yet making new highs, but we are seeing now it catching up as well. The futures down very slightly. The US market's already open today. If we look at the FTSE 100 index, we're down very slightly today, but again we have been nudging to new highs, and we're bullish on all three time frames here, so that's looking significant. And the FTSE 250, the Midcaps index, also looking quite high. Market's quite light in liquidity at the moment. We're seeing the mid-caps there making new multi-year highs, so that's very significant for UK stocks. The DAX in Germany is up 0.25% today, so we're seeing that pushing higher as well, and the CAC Quarante also pushing higher too. So we're seeing here long, medium, and short-term charts all bullish. The stock market's generally finishing the year on a strong note, and we see here the Nikkei looking very strong as well. Hang Seng also looking very strong. So stock markets really starting to run. The Shanghai Composite in China not looking as bullish as, of course, most Western markets. Still not quite into long-term bullish zone yet, but we are looking like we're going to make that transition along with other markets. In India, we're up 1% today, so that's a very strong end to the year as well. We're seeing the Indian market looking very strong, making new highs there too, and the Aussie market also following suit, up just under 0.5%, but again finishing the week on a strong note. So generally speaking, stock market's looking pretty bullish. Brent crude, we're seeing is down slightly today, but again, crude oil's entering its strong time of year. We're expecting crude to be bullish now in the Q1. That's normally when crude oil goes up in the run-up to the summer driving season, and the same with WTI, of course. US NatGas not looking so good, sitting at $2.18. That's looking quite a lot weaker, and we're seeing here just falling away there, so quite significant there. And if we look at gold sitting up today, but of course it has been selling off recently with the with the markets looking quite strong. So we're seeing gold here just sitting still sitting above that $1,500 mark, so still looking quite good there, but we are just seeing a fall away on the charts. Looking at silver, we're also higher there as well, so we are just seeing a move there as well. Taking a look at 10-year Treasury yields, just sitting at $98 on the actual price, but on the yield we're sitting at 1.88%. So we are just seeing yields turning short-term bearish. But it does look like we saw the bottom in yields at about 1.4% for 10-year yields in 2019, and so probably we are going to see an increase in the bond price, in the yield prices, bond prices therefore falling inverted, and we're seeing that in German bonds still falling lower there as well. Taking a look now, this data coming from Thomson Reuters Icon or Metastock Zenith, taking a look now just at the global markets. The Dow, as we said, is up very strongly. Boeing actually up 1% today, so they've reacted quite positively after obviously their chief executive going. Apple sitting up nearly 1%. So we're seeing a lot of green across the board here in stocks, so that's looking pretty bullish. Apple just really running away now. And if we take a look at some of the other stocks, we've seen some really strong performances this year. I mean, Microsoft, they're up nearly 50% this year. So we have seen a lot of big runs in stock prices. It's really quite significant there, outperforming the Dow Jones Index itself by 27% this year. The NASDAQ 100, we've got a bit of a mixed picture today. We're seeing the live prices coming in here from Yahoo Finance, but a lot of stocks up. Amazon up massively again, up over 1%, and really jumping back into bullish territory there. So they look like they'll break and run higher. In the Aussie market, we had very strong performances, as you'd expect. Speedcast up 9%. And so we've seen quite a lot of stocks up a few percent here. Quite interesting, the counter trend moves there. And on the downside, we didn't really see that many stocks at all. Looking at the Nifty 50 now, the best performer actually was Axis Bank Limited. They're up 3%. And Coal India actually up another 3%. So that's actually a bullish transition for Axis, and Coal India still has work to do on that long-term chart. On the downside, well, we can see here that there was only a handful of stocks down. Yes Bank, terrible form throughout 2019. Their woes continue, no sign of recovery, underperforming the Dow Jones Index by 80%, so really significant there. Taking a look now over to Europe, if we start by looking at the FTSE 100 index, and if we take a look at the best performing stocks here, we see that Just Eat, they're up 2.4% today, so that's quite significant. So really some quite strong performances here. We've got Next Group also up 2%. So we see here in the daily chart and Just Eat really sort of outperforming there as well. And Next also putting through a strong showing. On the downside in the FTSE 100, we only have still probably about a quarter of stocks down, so it's a bit of a mixed picture today, but overall the market looking pretty strong. And on the 250 Helios Towers, they're up 4.2%, CLS up 4%, so we are seeing some really quite big improvements there as well. Over to Europe now as we go into the final bit of the year, and we see Italy Industria Deceno, they're up over 1%. Eurodollar in Spain up 1%. Deutsche Post up over 1%. Again, pretty much a strong showing there for the rest of Europe. So we are seeing quite significant moves. That's it for today. Until next year, Happy New Year to you all. Look forward to seeing you in 2020. And that's it for today. Until then, happy charting. See you next year.